Hey everyone, Kyle here. Welcome to a video I've been wanting to do for a long time. The first episode in my 4-topic series on bidding and bridge. It's going to be a wild ride. We're going to talk through all you need to know to kind of learn a standard 2/1 based bridge bidding system. The bidding system you want for your modern standard bridge needs. So it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to get this wild ride kicked off. So here we are, lesson 1. Lesson 1 is, drum roll, so general topic, bidding and bridge. Lesson 1 is opening the bidding and bridge, or the role of opener. So it should be fun. We'll kind of talk through opening the bidding and bridge. So this series is on bidding specifically, not card play. It's to help you kind of understand the language of bridge. So bidding and bridge is how we communicate, and it determines all of these different fun aspects of the game. So there's going to be 4 parts of this series. Well, not 4 parts, 4 topics, and then as many parts as we need to cover each topic. So today we'll be covering the full opening topic, because covering opener isn't too bad. So opener is the first person in a bridge game to make a call or a bid. A call is the name for the whatever bid you put down on the table. But pass is also a call. So bids is bidding like one of a suit or one no trump or what we call strains. So that's opener. Then we're going to talk about responding. So responder is the partner of opener. So once your partner has shown a good hand, how do you deal with that? How do you work together to get to a good bridge contract? Then we get to the other 2 people, which are overcaller and advancer. So, there's 4 people at a table. When someone opens, it's not like the other people can't say anything. Or, you would open, otherwise it's not fun if the other team can't do stuff. So we call the first adversary to bid, or, well, you could be the adversary. So we call the first person from the other team to bid the overcaller. And similarly to responder, we call the partner of overcaller the advancer. So we're going to break down what each of these roles look like. Today we should be able to cover opener. Next few times, we're going to cover all of the in-depth breakdown of responder, which is probably the most in-depth and gets you a sense of how to put all the pieces together. We gotta build that initial sense of the language first. Then we can tack on competitive bidding, which is the overcaller stuff, and from that, advancer should come a little more easy than everything else. So basically, I'd say we're going to spend 10% of the time on opening, 40 to 50% of the time on responding, 30% of the time on overcalling, and probably about the same amount of energy as opening on advancing. So the bulk will be in the middle. But that's, part of the fun, putting it all together. So without further ado, let's try to understand opening the bidding bridge. So what the hell is the point of bidding, right? Bidding is kind of weird. If you're a beginner and you start off, a lot of the time I'll teach you mini bridge, which is bridge without bidding, right? We'll just say, here's a contract played out. So, what's the point of this bidding thing? What's the big deal? Why do bridge players like bidding? And what does it add to the game? So it can add a lot of different things to the game. So bidding determines, without arbitrary deciding, who's playing the hand, who's defending. Bidding determines all that. It determines who's the declarer, so which team is on offense, which team is on defense. It also sets the number of tricks to be taken. And determines basically all aspects of scoring, right? So the final contract determines what possible scores you can earn on a given deal. So it determines how many tricks the offense side has to take. It determines the penalties if they go down. If it's doubled or redoubled, it determines any scoring additions. There's also bonuses for bidding, high-level contracts and making them. It determines what those bonuses are. So it determines all of that, which is pretty exciting. It adds a lot to the game, because the excitement really comes from what are the stakes, which is provided by the scoring, right? Then we get to the question of what is the strain. So if there's trumps, if there is a suit that is so trump suits, if you have a lot of cards in a given suit, you want it to be trumps because it gives you more opportunities to take tricks. It's easier to take. You can take more tricks often with your long suit as trump. So this determines that, and both sides will usually have at least one suit that they prefer to be trump. So there's kind of this tension in both sides competing for their suit because they want to take more tricks. But like, what's that breaking point of what's your best score? So like, it adds a little bit of tension to the scoring. That it adds more stakes to the scoring because otherwise you could just bid higher than your opponents because we want to add that tension to like what's the best score for each side because like one side will have a lot of points usually. Maybe one side has more points than the other. So what's that tension of what's the best score for your side given the points, given the number of potential trump tricks you have for a particular suit versus the other team, and it adds a whole layer of complexity, which can be pretty fun. It's also the source of preplay information. So, if you end up on the declaring or defending side, you've seen the opponents, communicate through their bids. You kind of have a sense of their hands a little bit from what information they shared. And that's interesting because, part of the fun of Bridge is it's a game of imperfect information, which in the game theory world, games of imperfect information are kind of fun because you don't know where everything is. And, it's not like chess where you can see the whole board. You only see 50% of the cards at one time from all seats unless you're dummy. So the three active players in the play of the hand all only see 50% of the cards, and so there's some stakes there. And bidding makes it more fun because you get to know a little bit more. It's a little less shot in the dark, and it's kind of it adds more tension because do you share a lot of information or do you don't? There's you're given that option in the bidding. So it's kind of interesting. So things to think about when opening the bidding. So how do all those things translate to like how we might determine an open and call? Well, things on here like to find like these scoring bonuses and stuff or where your trump suit are, you're gonna want to set certain ideas of like what different bids show. So like here are some things that you might try to show in your bidding. So one thing you want to get across that you'll learn in any beginner bridge book is strength and shape. So those are the two common themes kind of for this area. So you want to show how many points do I have? We'll get into points in a minute if you don't know how points work in determining the strength of your hand. So essentially, the strength of hand is like essentially standard high card points. It's what every beginner learns. It's the universally agreed hand evaluation method. Not that people function in all these other things to help determine the strength of their hand, but essentially everyone agrees that aces are worth 4 points, kings are worth 3, queens are worth 2, jacks are worth 1. There's 4 of each. There's 40 points in a deck, 10 points in each suit. So we kind of have this, an average hand is 10 points. So we want to determine kind of what's the strength of our hand so we can determine, different total points of strength kind of equal increased likelihood of making higher level contracts to go after those scoring bonuses. We want our bidding to tell us about the strength of our hands. We want to find the proper trump suits. We want to describe our length. So are we concentrated in 1 or 2 suits, or are we kind of balanced? We have cards everywhere. Another thing when we open the bidding that we want to think about are kind of what our bids are going to look like. So besides our first bid, so what we're initially going to say, what's our second bid, what's our third and fourth bid? Like how are we, if we even get that far, like what, we want to have some idea when we open the bidding of a game plan. So we want to think ahead. It's kind of like chess, think the next move, always have the next move ready. Where our points are is often another thing. So beginners are often focused on where their points are versus total quality of their hand. So you might have like you might have ace, king, queen in a suit, but it might only be a 3-card suit, and you might have a 7-card suit outside that's not as strong. So like which suit's better? Where actually are our high cards? And how do they correspond to our length? It's a little bit more advanced, but it's definitely something we want to think about, especially like later in the bidding if we're looking for a high-level contract like a slam. And we also care about what our weak suits are. So like if our points are everywhere, like we're balanced, and our high cards are everywhere, we don't have many weaknesses, but we also might not have many strengths either. So but sometimes we care about a weak suit. Maybe we have a 7-card suit, and we have and we have only the 3 of diamonds. So like diamonds is a weak suit. We wanna when we're bidding in the auction, we wanna track diamonds. Because if we play in some contracts that diamond shortness can hurt us, the diamond shortness could actually help us. So we wanna be cognizant of where our shortness is as well as our length in the bidding, and how that evaluates to good contracts. So these are things we kind of think about. I know this is a little abstract if you haven't seen much bidding, but we'll get further into it. So I love this diagram. Full credit to this amazing professor, Truset Gates at Austin College. He was teaching some great beginner bridge classes to students at Austin College a few years ago. I think he still teaches them. He has some free material on his website that he graciously makes public. I love this diagram of his, so I take it. Hope he's not too offended. I love this material. I love this diagram. So we're going to talk about it. So like essentially we kind of have this checklist when we go through the opening bidding. So if any beginning bridge player knows that you want a little bit above average to open the bidding. So we talked about an average hand is 10 points. We say a queen or a king above average is an opening hand. So usually 12 is the modern style. 13 is the more firm style that sometimes we teach beginners. Or if you learned 30 years ago, that's probably what you learned. So my checklist of thinking about, how do you think about when you pick up a hand? So first we count our points. Step 1, do we have an opening hand? Yes, no. Pretty easy, right? Second, we think about our shape. So do we have a long suit? Are we 1 suited, 2 suited? Are we balanced? Do we have that rare 3 suited hand where cards are kind of everywhere but we're short somewhere? So then from there, we pick our opening bid. Then we also want to keep our rebid in mind, because sometimes that matters, particularly with limiting the strength of your hand and showing where your values are. So I love this chart. We'll get into this in a little more detail, but essentially, if you're unbalanced, unbalanced hands are easier to open, because essentially it's open your longest 5-card suit if you have one. If you don't have a 5-card suit, you're gonna open a 4-card suit, and you bid the longer one. So unbalanced hands, you open your longest 5-card suit. If you're equal in 2 suits, you open the higher one. So 5-5 in 2 suits, you open the higher ranking suit. Suit order is spades, hearts, diamonds, clubs. And bidding is like a step ladder, right? It constantly goes up. So if you, I should have had the ladder in front of me. I can get, actually, this is a little bit of arts and crafts here. So I have conveniently in my closet something known as a bidding box, which if you've ever seen Person Bridge Again, here's what it looks like. So you have all these bids, okay, and they go up like a ladder. So if someone opens the bidding 1 diamond, okay, you can't bid any bids below it. So if someone opens a diamond, no one can bid 1 club. You have to bid 2 clubs if you're going to bid clubs. So it's kind of like a ladder. The suits are clubs, diamonds, hearts, and spades. The higher you go, you can't go back. So it goes like left to right, increasingly advancing. So the idea is with 2 equal suits, you start with the higher one, because if you get to bid again, you can bid the second suit a level lower. So if let's say I'm 5-5 in spades and clubs. So if I open a club and partner bids something, and then I bid a spade, partner has to now give preference, or I guess the easier way to think of it is spades and hearts. The touching suits are easier to think about. So like, let's say I open a spade, and partner bids something, and then I plan to rebid 2 hearts. If partner prefers the higher suit, they can now bid 2 spades over 2 hearts. But if I open a heart, partner bids something, I probably have to bid 2 spades, because they probably bid like 1 no, let's say. So now partner prefers hearts over spades, they have to bid 3 hearts. So starting with your higher suits actually keeps bidding lower long term. So with equal in 2 5-card suits, you open the longer one. Equal with 2 4-card suits, you open the longer one. So that's how you do it with unbalanced hands. With balanced hands, it's a little different. So we have 2 opening bids. So balanced hands, opening unbalanced hands, we focus on shape, and not strength initially. The balanced hands are describing your shape, your strength early is important, because the main feature of balanced hands is your power, not any particular suit. So we have 2 opening bids that show your shape and your strength. So a 15 to 17 balanced hand and a 20 to 21 balanced hand. But, you can have any balanced hand from, if an opening hand is 12, you could have 12 to 14. You could have 18 to 19. You could have 22 plus, which is a really rare hand and very strong. So the way we deal with balanced hands that we don't have an opening bid for is we open them like unbalanced hands. So we open our longest 5-card suit. Sometimes we don't have a 5-card suit. Sometimes we only have a 4-card suit. So if we have a 4-card suit, we open it. If we're equal in suits, we tend to open the higher ranking of 2 equal suits. But the one exception is if you're 3-3. So we play a 5-card major system, so you have to have 5 cards to open a heart or a spade, which we'll get to on the next slide. But essentially, if you don't have an opening bid, and you have to choose between 2 3-card suits, which is a really rare situation, you actually open the lower one. That's the exception to open the higher of equals. But if neither suit is a real suit, just open the cheaper one because you want to save space. Which hopefully is logical. So anyway, let's get into like what a standard bidding system looks like. So what actually are our opening bids? So I gave you like a general sense of the texture of like how to open different hand types, but like what actually are opening bids? Oh shoot. Sorry, this got okay. Present. So in a standard opening bid system, we play what are known as 5-card majors. So the main principle of modern 5-card majors. This says, what are opening bids? What do they mean? That's what's hidden behind my face, my beautiful face. So we play a 5-card major system in standard, which means you have to have 5 hearts or 5 spades to open 1 heart or 1 spade. 1 no is our standard balance range, 15 to 17, like we described. So then a club and a diamond do a little more work than you think. So a club and a diamond are often 4 cards. So we generally open a 4+ card suit. In fact, we can always open a 4-card or longer suit if we're unbalanced. Except we've added this strict rule that a heart and a spade need to show 5. So what happens is, if you're unbalanced, it turns out you can always open a 4-card suit, right? If you have shortness somewhere, it turns out mathematically you will always have 4 cards in one of the 4 suits. Or at least you'll always have 2 4-card suits if you're unbalanced, or a 1 5-card or longer suit. So it turns out if you're unbalanced, which means you have shortness somewhere and you're concentrated in 1 or 2 or 3 suits, it turns out you can always open a 5-card major or 4+ cards in a club or a diamond. But then we get to the shitty balanced hands, right? Balanced hands of this moderate strength or this really strong strength, 20 to 21, have an opening bid. But what if you're like in the gaps, like 12 to 14 or 18 to 19? So that's where you start to get into these troubles because you're 2 4-card, you always have at least 1 4-card suit in bridge, 4-card or longer suit. And if you're balanced, you often have like 2 4-card suits as a common theme. So like you might have too many cards tied up in the major, but not actually have 5 or more. So that's when you occasionally have to open a 3-card suit, and that's when you open a club or diamond, a card light. And so the standard bridging system, we often say it's like 5-5-3-3, I guess, are the required minimums, but the expectation is usually 4 or more cards when you're bidding. Then we have some of these 2-level responses. We'll get to these. These are conventional openings. We're not going to cover them today because they're not you don't need, like, for standard, constructive, like basic beginner bidding, we always say open as cheaply as possible. There's no reason to jump. There's no reason to take up lots of room if you don't have to, unless you're showing a very specific hand. So basically all of your openings are covered at the 1 level, plus this additional 2-no or 2-no opening for really strong balanced hands. So we're going to skip over 2 clubs to 2 spades. They're what's known as conventional bids. So they don't show extra strength because you're jumping. They can be used for extra hand types that are hard to show. So we'll get into that. So don't worry about memorizing this. This is just conceptual, what a standard bidding system looks like. So what are opening bids? What do they each mean? I think we started to cover this. So we talked about balanced hands are hard to describe. The main feature of balanced hands is their strength, and so we break them down in basically different groups of 2 or 3 point ranges, because anything bigger doesn't actually describe the strength of the hand too well, and that's the main feature of the balanced hand, is its strength, because you don't have the suit. So 1-0, we limit to this weird 15 to 17 range. You can definitely adjust that, but the standard modern style is that you want 1-0 to be a certain level of strength. You want it to be, a king stronger than opening. So, and then why are heart and spade 5+ cards? Well, you probably caught me. Like, that's a little arbitrary, right? Why don't we just open what feels natural to us? And in the old days of Bridge, we did what I said. We always had at least one 4-card suit. We just opened our 4-card suits. But it turns out there's a lot of problems in conceptualizing different hand types and avoiding different pitfalls. And Bridge experience has taught us that bidding's actually a lot simpler if a heart and spade promise 5 cards. And the reason for this is a heart and spade, heart, spades, and no trump are the most desirable contracts in Bridge versus clubs and diamonds, because that's where the game bonus is placed. The game bonus is cheaper for heart, spades, and no trump. And as well, another thing is a heart, spade, and no trump are the higher suits, and so they often more steal a contract over clubs and diamonds because they're higher and they can buy contracts a level lower than clubs and diamonds, which have to compete an extra level to keep up. And so because these are so desirable, showing extra known length in these suits really helps in competition and in the modern bidding world. And then why do we open a club and a diamond on shitty 3 cards? Well, we covered this because there's some hands that don't have a 5-card heart or spade suit or 4 cards. Elsewhere, some of these hands we compromise and we open a club or a diamond with 1 less card because we're opening a heart and a spade with 1 more. So it's give and take. No bidding system is perfect, per se. So quiz time. We're going to go over some basic, we covered our opening bids, if you were paying attention. Hearts and spades, 5 or more cards. So we're going to go back to this diagram, essentially, and we're going to try to pick our bids. So if you're unbalanced hands, so if you have shortness and concentration in 1 or 2 or rarely 3 suits, you're going to open your longest suit. If you're balanced, you're going to try following this diagram. So if you're 15 to 17 or 20 to 21, you're going to open 1-0. If you can't do that, you're going to open it kind of if you're unbalanced, so open your 5-card suit if you have one. If you don't have a 5-card suit, you're going to open a 4-card minor, or very rarely you will open a club with equal length in the minors because you don't have a real minor suit. So let's think about each hand conceptually on this quiz. These are from the amazing Richard Pavelsek, I think is how you pronounce his name. Amazing Bridge expert. He has a great beginner website. I urge you to check it out if you're looking for practice. It's a little more old-fashioned. He's a lot more conservative, so he'll teach the 13+ openings that I talk about. But he has great material out there, Richard. And I encourage you to think about some of his bidding quizzes and stuff that he has on there. If you want to learn standing about, he has. There's some good content out there. So hand 1. So again, we count our high card points. So 4 for an ace, 3 for a king, 2 for a queen, 1 for a jack. I'll give you 10 seconds to count it out, and then we'll talk through the hand. All right. Hopefully that was enough time. If you need to, you can pause. You can pause me and continue with me at your own pace. It's really fine. So here we got 5 points in spades. Ace jack is 5. King jack is 4. So 5, 9. No points in diamonds and 7 points in clubs. So 9, 7 is 16. So next we think about balanced versus unbalanced. This is a balanced hand. It's balanced. How do we know it's balanced? Because we don't have any shortness anywhere. We have balanced hands have at least 2 cards in every suit. So we're going to think about balanced hands. We talked about 12 to 14 and 18 to 19 balanced hands are stuck, or 22 plus. Don't quite have an opening bid. But 15 to 17 and 20 to 21 do. So this is 16 points. We're balanced. We have an opening bid. It's called a no trump. So hand 1 opens 1 no trump. How about hand 2? Again, I'll give you a few seconds. Pause me if you need to. All right, hand 2. So we have 10 high card points, okay? going a little faster this time. We got 5 in spades, 5 in diamonds. We said our opening rule is 12 points. We don't have 12 points on this hand, so we could pass this. Hopefully that makes sense. If we were to open this hand, if we wanted to either upgrade it with additional bidding methods that we're not, or additional evaluation methods that we're not going to talk about this lesson, or more realistically, if you had, let's pretend we had like the King of Hearts or something. So this hand is unbalanced. For unbalanced, we look for a 5-card suit. We look for our longest 5-card suit to open. So here you would open this a spade. Okay, moving on to hand 3. I'll pause. Pause me if you need to. Okay, hand 3 has 13 high card points, 7 in spades, 4 in hearts, 0 in diamonds, 2 in clubs. So 7, 11, 13. And it's balanced. We have at least 2 cards in every suit. So we got that. It's not 15 to 17 or 20 to 21 balanced. So it doesn't fall in the opening range. So we're going to pick our opening bid. Now, we'd like to open this a heart or a spade, but remember we have that rule, you need 5 cards to open a heart or a spade. So we're going to look to clubs and diamonds. And unfortunately, we don't have a long club or diamond suit, but we're going to lie and we're going to open this one a club. And the idea is, we haven't quite got there yet, but the idea is you're going to rebid 1 no trump later. So opening a club and rebidding 1 no implies 12 to 14 balance, because if you were 15 to 17 balance, you would have opened 1 no immediately. So you can use that rebid to later describe your hand, if you need to. Now, sometimes partner will show hearts or spade links, and you'll be very thrilled, and you can just raise that suit because you found it fit. So hands like 3 are interesting once we get into the responding role, because there's several routes in which you might rebid, because you were kind of stuck that first time. So let's take a look at hand 4. We'll pause. Okay, so hand 4 has 13 points, 2 in spades, none in hearts, 3 in diamonds, and 8 in clubs. So this is a little tricky for a lot of beginners. So we're unbalanced, so no trump opening bids to consider. So we say open a 5-card suit. And this is one that often throws beginners off, because they say, look at how good my club suit is. 8 of my points are in clubs, 3 are in diamonds. So I think the temptation for a lot of beginners is bid your good suit, bid clubs. But, you know, as we tried to talk about earlier, if you're equal in 2 suits, you tend to open the higher ranking one. So diamonds is higher ranking. So the idea is we open a diamond, because if we open a diamond, we can easily rebid two clubs, and then partner can give preference to either one. Because 3 diamonds is cousins to 3 clubs. It's one above it. If we open a club and rebid 2 diamonds, to get back to clubs, we have to jump 3 clubs, which is like what, 4 steps up. It's 4 steps up from 2 diamonds. So the idea is we want the rebids to be close to each other on the ladder, because it gives us more narrow room. We're not getting too high too fast. So it doesn't actually matter about suit quality with your opening bids. You're just describing your shape. Shape is more important than where your strength is concentrated is. Where your strength is concentrated is a more specific detail meant for your rebid. So your bread and butter should be on shape and strength. And so it's not where your strength is. It's about shape. It's about shape and showing your total strength, I should say. So hopefully that makes sense. So the correct answer is a diamond at 4. Hand 5, I'll give you a minute. Okay. So hand 5 has 17 points. This one's a little interesting to talk about evaluation-wise. So hand 5, we have 17 points. So are we balanced? Yes, we have 2 cards in every suit. So if you remember the balance ladder, we would open this 1 no. So now this is a good chance to introduce a secondary evaluation method that people use, and it's something called like length points. A lot of people, almost everyone uses this as opener. So often with length points, we'll add 1 extra point for a 5-card suit, 2 extra points for a 6-card suit, and etc. So long suits are worth extra total length points, and then adding length points to high card points we'll call our total points. So if you look at hand 5, you could add an extra length point for the 5-card diamond suit and treat this as 18 points. If you treated this as 18 points, 18 to 19 is that additional like strength range. So you would open this, you don't have an opening bid for 18, 19 bounds. So we would open this a diamond, and kind of like hand 3 that we talked about before, your plan is to rebid no trump, and you wouldn't rebid 1 no, because that shows the minimal hand, 12 to 14. You would actually rebid 2 no trump with this monster hand, and that implies 18 to 19 points, because you could have opened 2 no to show 20 to 21. So opening a suit and rebid shows just below the opening bid of that no trump. So opening 2 no shows 20 to 21. Opening a suit and rebidding 2 no shows just below that, 18 to 19. And same with opening 1 no. If you open one of a suit and rebid 1 no, you're showing just below that opening bid, 12 to 14, because those are, you have that negative inference. Like you wouldn't show that same hand in 2 ways. We have 1 way to show each type of hand. So that's a little interesting. And lastly, we have hand 6, which is a fun one. Well, not too fun, but anyway, hand 6 has 16 aggro points, 5 in spades, 4 in hearts, 4 in diamonds, 3 in clubs. So this is unbalanced. So unbalanced hands open their long suit. So you would open this as spade. And then hand 6 is an interesting hand because you can start to think about like your rebids. So if you were to guess what a rebid, do you have any guess what it would be? Give you a sec to think about it. So like hand 6, you would open a spade, and then rebids are about, you want to describe a second feature of your hand with your rebid. So we'd probably rebid 2 hearts. So 2 hearts shows 4 more cards in your hand. It's very rare that we have a second suit equal in length to our first suit. So rebids are usually like 1 or 2 cards less than the opening length promised in our first suit. Usually new suits show 4 more cards, or simple new suits, because if our secondary suit is 3 or more cards, we're either single suited or balanced. So it just so happens that hearts is often 4 cards here, kind of thing. So hopefully that makes sense. And I talked about a second important part of opening the bidding is having that rebid plan. So we talked about hand 6, and we planned a rebid. We're going to open a spade, and we're probably going to rebid 2 hearts unless partner does something unexpected. Like something unexpected might be partner raising spades. So things change if you find a fit right away. So you always want to have that rebid in mind. Same with hand 5, right? We talked about opening a diamond and planning to rebid 2 no. But your plans change. But often, when we open a hand, like we want to know what our next bid is. Because sometimes you have something really good and you need to plan exceptionally ahead. Just a little bit. So our priority with our rebid, we're going to make this plan on what our second bid is. So for hand 6, it's rebid hearts. For hand 5, it's rebid 2 no. For hand 4, it's rebid clubs, the second suit we didn't open. For hand 3, it's rebid 1 no, because we're balanced. For hand 2, it's rebid diamonds, right, the secondary suit. Hand 1's a little tricky, because hand 1's a 1 no opener. We'll talk about rebids after a no trump opening in a different lesson, so don't worry too much about it. But essentially, your priorities, you come up with that plan, but that plan changes depending on what partner tells you, and we'll get into that in the next lesson when we talk about responses. But essentially, your plan changes if partner likes the suit you opened. If partner really likes the suit you opened, you don't need to necessarily show your new suits at this point. You have found a trump suit. So you might pass if you're really weak. You might look for game, and if you're looking for game, you don't necessarily have to show your longer suit. You might invite in no trump or something else. You found a trump suit, so you don't necessarily have to show your other suits anymore. Second priority is to do kind of what we've been talking about, which is introduce a new suit, particularly a lower ranking suit. So you'll notice hands like hand 6, like we're introducing hearts because they're lower than spades. You notice in every example, like we opened our longer suits first, so we're introducing a new lower ranking suit, right? We happen to be opening our long suit first in each example. But like imagine a hand where we have like 5 diamonds and 4 spades. or I don't know, maybe that's a bad example. Like a good example is, imagine hand 6 where we have 5 hearts and 4 spades, and the auction goes something like a heart, 1 no by partner. So sometimes you can't introduce your new suit because it's a higher ranking suit. So like an auction, this gets into the nitty-gritty responder, but like if auction goes a heart 1 no, partner doesn't have 4 spades, right? So if you had 5 hearts and 4 spades, it's actually, that's the one exception where you wouldn't want to show your 4 card spade suit, because partner is denied spades and spades are higher than hearts, so you have to come up with some other bid. That's a problem. 5 hearts, 4 spades is a common problem shape in bridge, but it's one of the very few problem shapes. So in general, you can rebid a new 4 card suit. You do want to pay attention if that suit is lower ranking or not, because often it's not right to bid a higher ranking 4 card suit, unless partners bid it themselves. Third priority is to rebid extra length in your suit. So we haven't seen any single suiters yet, but you can imagine a hand. Let's look at hand 6 again. Let's imagine you have 6 spades and 3 hearts. Let's move the 10 of hearts over into a spade. In that hand, you don't have a second suit to rebid. As hearts are short, you have what's known as a single suitor. So if you don't have a second suit to share, you can rebid extra length than you promised in your initial suit. So, majors promise 5 cards, so extra length in a major suit is just 1 card more. For minor, we say, that implication is that you're normally 4 or more cards. So if you rebid a minor, you're showing at least 5 or more cards, usually 6, but sometimes you're stuck, and rebidding just shows at least 5 or more, 1 card extra than you promised if you were unbalanced. So if you're unbalanced, you have a 1 major opening shows 5 or more cards. A 1 diamond, 1 club opening shows 4 or more cards. Remember, it's only 3 if you're balanced and you're like really stuck or something. So rebidding shows that extra card. So other considerations. So we normally rebid cheaply as possible. We don't normally jump. Jumping shows either extra strength, shortness, some significant feature of your hand where you're worried. So like if you have a big hand, like 18 or more points, and partner is a simple response, often you do jump because you're worried partner with a weak hand isn't going to be able to bid again. But 95% of the time, we don't jump when we show a new suit. We just bid our cheapest to rebid and describe our hand. So I think, so we talked about that. We talked about the balance ladder already, how you have your opening bid, and then the range touching below is kind of the slightly weaker variant that you show through a rebid. And then stronger hand, we haven't talked about 22 plus hands. 22 plus hands are really weird. We play a conventional opening bid called the 2 club convention that can show these strong hands. You could also just like open 3 no trump in the meantime if you're a beginner and you have like, if you have like a 22 plus hand, that's often very good. You might just open it 3 no trump in the meantime until you learn some of these other 2-level opening bids. So that's all I have for you today. So as a little review, we'll kind of show our slides for next time, like I had a recap at the beginning of the next lesson. So we talked about today thinking about shape and strength of your hand and how that translates to your open bid. In particular, we broke down how to think about balanced hands versus unbalanced hands, and how that translates to your simple bidding plan. So what's my opening bid? What's my rebid? And we kind of talked about the difference between balanced and unbalanced hands. We talked about this 5-card major priority for hearts and spades, and kind of like what these 5 opening bids really mean, and like what do they initially promise, and how do you further describe your hand from there. And we really talked about this diagram. We'll review this diagram at the beginning of the next video. But beautiful way to think about how to categorize your hand and how to kind of work through this chart and come up with your initial bid. And then from there, we can start to do the little extra work of at least thinking about what our second bid's going to be. And then besides that, we talked about priorities on that rebid. Essentially, we like to think about priorities 2 and 3 before we hear what partner has to say. And then priority 1 is kind of what we prefer. Priority 1 is partner likes our first suit. But that depends on partner's rebid, which is the coming lesson. So often we're pessimistic and we think of the worst case scenario. We plan out our bid based on points 2 and 3 ahead of time, and then we might change how we rebid based on if partner actually likes your suit. And we talked about these different ranges of balanced hands and how they rebid. Because particularly balanced hands are a little bit weird because they're not suit oriented. So you have to have some kind of this idea of when we rebid no trump. So that's all I have for you today. Hope this was informative. If you're a pure beginner, I know this is definitely really intimidating. Definitely, like, it's not easy. You definitely have to see and practice and do things on your own. So I would encourage you, like, at this point, to really quiz yourself. Deal out hands to yourself at the table. Just deal out a bunch of opening hands and think, like, what would I do with each hand? What are my first 2 bids? How do I start to think about it? If you started playing on a bridge app or with a bridge friend, go do that. Just wing it. It doesn't have to be perfect. Try to think of your opening bids. Try to imagine like what your rebids might be. And if you try to get to try to get to a reasonable contract in 2 bids. You bid something, partner bids something, opener bids something, partner gets one more say, and then just play the hand and have fun with it. So that's one good way to practice these and start to get a sense of how opening and bidding works. If you're more intermediate player trying to like sharpen your knowledge of how to think about bidding, I hope that was helpful from this perspective. I didn't really try to dumb anything down. I try to explain how I actually think about hands when I'm at the table, and hopefully that perspective is helpful. And I know maybe going through counting out your points and stuff is a little weird, but maybe you learn something of like that length suit evaluation. Because I know a lot of people, like with 17 points in a 5-card suit, won't consider the 2-no rebid, but sometimes it's right. So like, hopefully you got some sense of good hand evaluation for that. My even more advanced friends that are watching this, hopefully this helps you think about how to teach your new partners and be appreciative of the struggles they're going through. And yeah, that's all I got for you. This is part 1 of the series. We'll be doing a lot more of this. I'm not perfect. I might film new versions of these slides as I get better at teaching, and revisit it every once in a while. But I hope in the meantime this is a good introduction, and I hope you had fun with me. So thanks for watching, and we'll have more of these coming because I'm about to film the second one of these right now, in fact. So have a good day, and until next time.